All right. Again, keeping an eye on this developing scene, and it appears to be maybe sort of undeveloping in a bit in terms of crowds dispersing. That's the latest information that we're getting here, is that many of the federal agents have cleared the scene, is the word we're getting. Still some St. Paul police officers in riot gear working crowd control is the message that I got, but that it appears that whatever operation was going on there with the federal agency appears to be done now, but tear gas or other chemical irritants being deployed. We saw that live. Our photographer on the scene, Scott Keller, said he was affected by that as well, so he had to kind of clear out of there a little bit. I've been in those situations too, and you don't have to be close to those irritants to be affected by them. I mean, I thought I was well back last time it affected me, and no, and I had to take 10-15 minutes to try to recover from that. So those are very potent out there. So
yeah, so let's back up here. We've lost our visuals, so I can't tell exactly what's happening at the scene right now. But as you mentioned, Rob, the operation itself, we believe that is over inside the residence, but there is still kind of a scene. And when I'm talking about a scene, I'm talking about people, a crowd that has gathered outside this home, and then St. Paul police as well, trying to get that crowd under control. So that's what we're looking at right now. We'll back up about an hour to 90 minutes ago. There was some sort of a federal law enforcement operation in that St. Paul neighborhood that drew a large crowd. We do not know if that operation was related to immigration. We do not know right now, but we're trying to figure that out. And then we know that St. Paul police responded in what appears to be trying to get that crowd under control. As we've talked about a lot, Rob, we've talked about how local police do not necessarily work with the feds here on these operations, but they do respond in a crowd control measure. And that, again, just from what we've seen, that appears to be what we're looking at.
Yeah, and they try to make that very clear with their community. And the reason, you know, people wonder why there is that separation with local departments, you know, where they say we don't partake or we don't participate in these immigration operations, is because they don't want people in their community afraid to call 911 when there is a public safety issue. You know, that's why they say we do not ask about immigration status, because they want to make sure that people are calling the police or fire departments when there is a situation that is needed for them to respond to. They don't want people to be worried about if their status is in question, that they're going to be investigated for that. So that is the separation with local departments, is that they don't want that to impede anything that they need to do to keep the community safe. But they will respond in situations where there may be a crowd control issue, or if people need medical attention due to you know, chemical irritants being used. If it gets a little bit, I don't want to say out of control, but kind of heading in that direction where
you want to prevent it from being out of control. Rob, right now in Aya, if you're listening, our Corn Hoggard is at the scene and joins us now right now. So let's bring him in to kind of get us up to speed on what he's seeing and what he's hearing. Corn, if you can hear me, and I think Corn may have also gotten in this pepper spray mode here, so just we'll stand by on that. But Corn, if you're ready and can give us kind of a report here.
Phone here, so I'm kind of choking up as I'm talking here. We're on Payne near Geranium right here, and there was this is where all of that activity was. Let me kind of turn this camera around though and show you what's happening right now. So they're treating some folks over here who got pepper sprayed or tear gassed. These are mostly journalists who got hit here. That's NPR has a guy right there, and there's another one I saw, who are journalists out here who got sprayed. I don't know exactly what happened with them. I can tell you, though, there were two state representatives out here, Representative Athena Hollins and Lise Kozlowski, who both got pepper sprayed. They say that was St. Paul police doing crowd control, and that somebody like stepped over a line just slightly, and instead of asking them to back up, they just tear gassed a number of people. So it's fairly chaotic out here, but things are starting to kind of clear out. The crowd's dispersing. There is still palpable anger here directed at both St. Paul police and all of the federal agents who are out here. What they have told me, the little bit of detail that I have, is that the agents came out here. They were looking for 2 people. One of them ran away and came up this way and went into a house. And that's when they went in. The agents went into the house after that person, ended up negotiating that person's release. Sorry, there is quite a bit of pepper spray just kind of in the air here, so it's a little hard to talk. But yeah, that's essentially what we understand right now. I'm looking at Representative Athena Hollins right here. He was one of the state representatives who was pepper sprayed out here by officers at the scene. So,
how many people would you say, I mean, if you can guess, how many people were there when you got there, and how many are still there now? Gosh,
I've been here about 15 minutes, so I was a late comer. There were probably, I don't know, they're spread out all over the place here. So there were a few hundred here when I got here, and now I'd say there are maybe just 100 left. But yeah, as you look around, you see a lot of people getting care from medics who are out here, and they're used to this kind of situation. I saw, a lot of them brought milk. That's one of the ways you treat the tear gas in the eyes. So they are, prepared for these scenarios.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too, where people show up to these with milk because they sort of expect that it might go that way. So our understanding is that it appears that the federal agencies have now cleared the scene.
I saw several of them leaving. That was what I was hearing, was that they were on their way out. They did kind of interact with some folks in a negative fashion, I would say, when they were on the way out. I did hear some of the gathered protesters yelling at them, and there was still at least one incident. I'm sorry, Mayor's over here talking. Let me see if I can get that for you here as well.
Okay. The mayor has shown up on the scene. This again on the east side of St. Paul, in the Payne and Maryland area. So we saw him show up at the scene at the last time this happened in St. Paul recently, and we'll see if we can listen in.
So hear me out. Here's what I'm saying.
They're only agency out here today, and those are our tax dollars.
Our police was no, the federal agency. No. And I have the same questions that you have.
And they stay out there.
What'd you say?
Why were they here? That was the first question I asked.
And I am trying to. So let's have a conversation. Our police is to make sure that our streets are safe.
Do we have to run the process in St. Paul?
They just made us more unsafe. Now let me. And so again, I started by saying I have a lot of questions, and we have to answer together. Now, if there's any time in our city, there are people throwing rocks. And again, I don't know that that's a fact. I've heard that.
Taslowski and
If there's a scenario where streets are being blocked or rocks or things like that, where somebody tells us that somebody's throwing a rock at you, or anybody else, a police officer.
hold on.
And so,
Mr. Mayor, some of my colleagues.
so they
Hold on. Some of my colleagues have been framed by state police, and that's unacceptable.
And I'm telling you,
state legislators.
And I'm telling you over and over again that I have questions. I don't have one of the answers to this. I'm telling you over and over again. I have I'm still a Sanctuary City. State, you don't know what.
We have to hold their police
Questions.
Yes.
And we do have some for people. That's why we have it. And that's why we'll be able to. Should I vote? I don't have to.
Where's the chief of police? I mean, he should have.
I don't have the ability to.
Quick, yes or no? Still a Sanctuary
Our police officers are together going to be it's a very good information. Not only for the enforcement today.
This is St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter speaking to folks gathered on the east side of St. Paul following a federal operation today. Getting a little bit hard to hear at times, but he's saying, he's trying to find out some of the same information, that St. Paul police are there to keep the streets safe. We do know from our video earlier that we did see a handful of different federal agencies represented on vests. The Marshals Fugitive Task Force was one of them. So the question is, and what we do not have answers to at this point, is whether this was related to an immigration operation or whether it's another criminal investigation on behalf of the federal authorities, or if it's a combination, which is sort of what we saw last week. Sometimes those do intertwine a little bit. But again, Mayor Melvin Carter of St. Paul trying to speak to the crowd to answer questions, saying that he's trying to get some of these same answers that they are asking him, but certainly trying to instill some calm in the crowd there. Again, federal agents, it appears, have mostly cleared the scene. Some St. Paul police have stayed behind, and certainly people helping those who were affected by chemical irritants used in crowd control. Still questions about who deployed those chemical irritants as well. Was that federal agencies? What did St. Paul police, what was their role in any of that crowd control?